Already at the time of the Buddha, there were teachers who did not appreciate anything like religion. They would say that there is no consequence of our actions, that there is no next life, that there is no hell, no heaven, no God. And such views were very famous, and people knew it already 2,500 years ago. The idea that religion is not needed, that karma or kamma, as we would call it in Theravada Buddhism, doesn't work, that it doesn't exist, that there is no consequence of your actions, no next life, no previous life, no heaven, no hell. Such ideas were common already 2,500 years ago. So it is nothing new if somebody says that there is no God or no next life. We cannot even call it fashion because it's so old that it predates even the Buddha himself. But I would like to invite you to think a little bit more about the consequences of such philosophy. We could see from great men such as Stalin or Hitler or Pol Pot in Cambodia that rejecting of religion is not a condition for peace. They rejected religion entirely. They were 100% against any kind of worshipping or belief in any kind of God or consequences of one's actions. And still, the community that they led didn't attain peace or happiness, rather the opposite. Moreover, I would like to opinionate that the damage that the non-religious belief has caused is much more than any religion has ever caused in the past. So even if we compare it historically, the so-called humanism, where you believe in human and not in any supernatural phenomenon, does not lead to peace. It never did. In all religions, just like in atheism and humanism, it's the human, it's the person, the individual who creates peace, not the religion or philosophy. The religion and philosophy just give you directives, they give some suggestions. The advantage of religion over philosophy, over atheism, humanism, and so on, is that in religion you are always observed. Either you are observed by a God, or the reality of consequence observes you. A very non-personal, impersonal reality. Whatever you do brings a consequence, regardless whether somebody sees it, knows it, notices it. And because you are always in check, you are more careful about your actions. We can see among atheists, and I am coming from a very non-religious community in Europe, there are two countries which have the greatest percentage of non-religious atheist people, namely France and Czech Republic. And I'm coming from Czech Republic, and I'm coming from a community which is very atheist, which is very much against any kind of religion. or religious belief. And I can say that these particular people who believe that there is no religion, and myself, when I didn't know anything about Buddhism, when I had no faith in a religious phenomenon, I can say that there is nothing to stop you from harming, telling lies, deceiving, or anything else which is unskillful, which may lead to the suffering of yourself, of others, as soon as you have a good reason for that. So in non-religious environment, when you have a reason to steal, such as nobody is watching you, that's the best reason to steal. Or when you want something, that's also a very good reason to steal. Or if you are just not happy with somebody and that somebody doesn't have many friends, nobody much cares about that person, okay, nobody watches you, that's where you kill them. That's where you injure them, when you harm them. Such is the community where religion is missing. Because without religion, if nobody sees you, then you can do anything. You can kill, steal, you can deceive, anything at all. It becomes a big problem only if somebody finds out. Then you've lost. Until then, you can do anything at all. Because there is nothing that could find fault with you. And there is no reason why not to do it. Why would you not steal something if nobody knows, if nobody sees that? Okay, so in religion, it's the opposite. In religion, anything you do is known. Either it is known by a supernatural entity, or the reality itself will bring about consequence for you. And so the Buddha suggests that the belief in no life after death, or not believing in next life after death, brings people to evil. The Buddha himself rejects nihilism, the belief that there is no life after death, as the cause of harming, as the cause of downfall of society. The Buddha therefore suggests that it's better to believe in the consequence of our actions, regardless whether somebody sees them or not. Because then we are more careful about what we do, regardless whether somebody sees us or not. And I would like to suggest the same thing. It is really better to believe in consequences of our actions. It is better to believe in next life for a community, for an individual, so that we can develop, we can grow in doing good things, in avoiding bad things. Moreover, there have been countless, literally countless, and recorded thousands of cases of children and adults who can remember their past lives. There are no ways how they could remember their past lives other than just remembering them through having it the life as their own past life and remembering it as their own past life. So many children remember their name and place of stay and what exactly they did in their past life, although nobody in their environment can ever remember it. There was scientific research regarding next life and past life, led by Dr. Ian Stevenson, and it has been continued by his student to a very deep level, where they have visited children all around the world, including the US and Europe, and they have inquired them about their past life. And they sometimes have come to incredibly striking details which those children and those adults could never ever remember. They could never learn them in this present life. They must have remembered them from their past life as it was their own past life. So there has been a scientific evidence for past life, and that means there is a scientific evidence for next life. So I believe that at this point, when science means that it tries to find the truth, not that it knows what's the true thing, I would like to suggest that we accept the reality the way it helps us to be happy, rather than holding on to something that allows us to do evil and condemning ourselves to a very unfortunate fate in case if we are wrong. The Buddha has thus rejected two extremes. One extreme of nihilism and the other of eternalism. For the Buddha, it is not possible to have an eternal existence because everything is conditioned by the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. The eye and the form together make up the eye consciousness, seeing. And seeing then is the condition for your pleasant, unpleasant and neutral feelings, and that is the condition for your perceptions and intentions. If there was no seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling or thinking, then there would be no sensation, there would be no perception, no intentions as well. So the Buddha, based on his own experience of impermanence and conditionality, has rejected the idea that there would be an eternal life, eternal existence or eternal ego. Everything is conditioned, and therefore everything is impermanent from the very beginning to its very end. The Buddha has thus rejected the extreme of nihilism and the extreme of eternalism and suggested the middle path. The Buddha has explained that there is ignorance, and the ignorance is the basis for greed and hatred, and then greed and hatred are the basis for ignorance. Ignorance of the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness and not-self of this world. Ignorance breeds greed and hatred. Greed and hatred breed ignorance, and like this it goes on and on and on. And in this cycle we are trapped until we can get rid of the ignorance. So the Buddha suggested that we get rid of the ignorance, that we open our eyes and see that everything is impermanent and conditioned. And when we can see that everything is impermanent and conditioned, we can get free from all greed and hatred and ignorance. And thus we can get freed from birth, old age, sickness and death.